Hi, everyone. This is Phil Travis, and this announcement's for History 437. And this is Maximus. He's the Pomeranian of the family. And we were just going to make this announcement and say it's been a really great term. This is for week 11. You want to get down? All right, maybe Max wants to get down. It's week 11 here at EOU, History 437. And it's been a great term. I hope everybody has really enjoyed the term. We have, of course, our last test that's coming up due by the end of the week. And also, of course, our major paper, which everyone did a paper proposal on and which we've been working on. And we have some really great paper ideas, I think, and I'm really excited about those. So I'm really excited to see how everybody's paper has turned out. Of course, the assignment Dropbox has been open. It was open last week, and it's open all this week. And so it's not due theoretically till exam week, but if you want to turn it in later, you're certainly free to do so. This week, we have our test and we have our paper, and so I try to keep the discussion form a little light this week, relatively speaking. I want to have some conversations about Germany today, Germany after unification, the role of NATO, and these types of things. And so I have posted, the only reading this week is an article. And the article came out, I believe, in 2015, and it is about the unification of Germany in 1989 and 1990 under the leadership of individuals like Helmut Kohl, and of course backed by the United States, President George H.W. Bush. And so I don't know if you can hear Mossy playing with his toy. There's dogs all around right now. But German unification was an event that, according to the article, resulted in a fundamental transformation of what NATO really was. Many had thought NATO might go away, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization that was brought into being following the end of the Second World War, largely to defend against the possibility of a Soviet attack on the West. And with the unification of Germany, NATO became largely an integral body in that unification. And the United States became very integral in the process of unification as well. Though it was really a German-driven unification, but nonetheless, the unification of Germany through NATO, or through the facilitated almost through the body of NATO, was something that ultimately pushed the United States another step towards becoming a major European power, as the author of the article that you will read this week argues. So it's a very interesting article. Of course, at the end of the Second World War, Germany was divided. East Germany and West Germany, and even East Berlin and West Berlin, as the city of Berlin liberated at the end of the Second World War during the defeat of Nazi Germany, or occupied, maybe it's the better term, became divided, east and west, like a microcosm of the country divided east and west. And of course, the Soviet bloc and the Western bloc, led by the United States, really could not come to an agreement whereby Germany would be peacefully reunified in the post-war period and integrated back into the world system. And the Soviets largely wanted to see Germany turned into like a satellite state that would provide reparations to help rebuild the Soviet Union. And of course, the West wanted to see a Germany that was reconstructed as a legitimate and strong capitalist power in the world that the United States could trade with. And of course, ultimately, the two sides were really unable to come to an agreement whereby Mossy keeps playing with that toy. I don't know if everybody can hear that, but hopefully that's not troublesome in terms of hearing what we're talking about here. But they couldn't come to an agreement to reunify Germany. And the result, of course, was the development of West Germany, the development of East Germany. And West Germany became a place that was generally associated with a certain degree of economic prosperity and opportunities of intellectuals and so forth to capitalize on their on the proceeds of their work, on the benefits of their work, led to real problems, of course, for the Soviet Union, who built the Berlin Wall in part at the beginning of the 1960s during John F. Kennedy's presidency and the premiership of Nikita Khrushchev. The Berlin Wall was built in part to slow the brain drain, as it was sometimes called, the movement of intellectuals from the East to the West, where they could have greater freedom over their works and profit more greatly from their works as well. So, of course, Germany became divided, and Germany was divided throughout the Cold War, from really the end of World War II until the reunification of Germany in 1989 and 1990. And so I want you to read this article this week about that reunification. It not only gives us some interesting thought about how reunification happened, it also gives us some really interesting insight into some of the ways that historians approach history in terms of whether or not we see history today as contingent and and dependent on a number of factors, not always in the control of any one single actor, or if historians see history as an inevitable events. And I think you'll see in reading the article that the author really emphasizes the contingency of history, and that when Germany was being unified, that the end game was hardly something that had been pre-planned, or where the United States had had a clear goal and pursued it from the end. It was rather a series of events that were quite contingent upon a number of factors. But the end result of those events was transformation of NATO, and over the long term, an expansion of NATO, of course. Eventually, former Soviet bloc countries like Poland become part of NATO. The Baltic states become part of NATO, and you wind up having the NATO alliance quite close to major cities of Russia. But of course, German unification too was something that catapulted the United States to another level of influence as really a European power. So that's what we'll be reading about this week. So don't forget your papers, they're due during exam week. The due date's up there on Canvas. Your test is due at the end of this week. We'll have kind of a light week in terms of discussion. It's relatively brief. Let's just have a little discussion about German reunification and the development of NATO. I also want to hear some of your thoughts on what you thought was the most interesting aspect of the class. And I hope everybody's really enjoyed this class. I've had some familiar students in this class, and some new students in this class, and I think we had some really great discussions in this class. And I hope everyone has had a very positive learning experience in this class. All right, last factoid of the term. The last factoid of the term is this: since we're kind of going from the end of the Second World War, and we're going to try to think about Germany from the standpoint of current era Germany, post Cold War Germany, unified Germany. Consider this: today, the Volkswagen Group, which of course was founded in 1937. The Volkswagen Group, the people's car, of course, that we were discussing when we were talking about the lead up to the Second World War. The Volkswagen Group today is the largest auto manufacturer in the world. They own a number of really high profile brands. In addition to Volkswagen, they own a number of really high profile brands. They own Audi, they own Bentley, they own Lamborghini, they own Skoda, which is a European car. You'd never see a Skoda in the United States. Just to name a few, though, Porsche is owned by the Volkswagen Group as well. And today, the Volkswagen Group, which is centered in Wolfsburg, Germany, and Wolfsburg, Germany was like an industrial town that was basically created as a result of Volkswagen. It was basically created and centered around the Volkswagen factory. There really was no city of any kind there before Volkswagen. And Volkswagen, of course, a company that has admitted to the employing of thousands of slaves during the Second World War. It's also recently, of course, been embroiled in scandal about cheating on its air emissions for its diesel cars. But nonetheless, Volkswagen today is the largest automaker in the world. It is centered around Wolfsburg, Germany, and they not only make Volkswagen cars, but they make a myriad of other high-profile brands like Bentley, Audi, Lamborghini, Porsche, Skoda, and so on. Um, that further sort of catapult its significance as the largest and most significant automaker in the world. So that's the factoid for this week. Let's have a great week. I hope everybody had a great time in this class. Email me that factoid no later than Wednesday by midnight. Get that last bonus point towards the test. Study for the test, and let's have a great last week. I look forward to hearing what everybody thought was their most interesting aspect of the class.